Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Broadway legend Chita Rivera hosts the New Year's Eve special United in Song tonight on PBS. She joined me to discuss her legendary career, from originating the role of Velma Kelly in Chicago to originating the role of Anita in West Side Story, including her thoughts on the 1961 film and the new remake by Steven Spielberg. It's an absolute honor to catch up with you. Thanks so much for joining us on WTOP.
Well, thank you very much yourself.
This special you filmed it at Philadelphia's Independence Hall, of course, where the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, all of that were signed. Why is that the perfect place for a special about resiliency in America?
Well, it is the perfect place, as you said. It is the place where our Constitution was laid out, and equality was brought to the attention. So it is, to me, the perfect place. It just is. It just is.
And why was it important for you to participate here and host this special? It's called United in Song, celebrating the resilience of America. But I mean, we've been through a lot, from COVID to, all of the, the Black Lives Matter marching, all the social injustice stuff, the politics. I mean, it's been a rough 2 years here. But why was it important for you to participate and heal here?
Well, just to have a word, to have a say, to be involved, and to be a part of it. I felt it was vital for me to be there, and to be asked was an honor. So, it was really quite something to be able to do it.
Oh, well, we can't wait to see it. It's going to be great. I mean, you yourself are, you're known as a Broadway legend, but for us here in DC, you're a hometown hero, because you were born in DC, in 33. Right. Your mom was Scottish Italian, worked for the Pentagon. Your dad was Puerto Rican, I guess was in the U.S. Navy band. But how did you yourself, get into, theater and the arts?
I was a very energetic kid. And I had a very smart and very wise mother. My father died when I was very young, but she decided to channel this energy. And so she picked the ballet school. And that was the perfect place for me to be, to channel all of this energy and put it in the right place. And then, good luck followed me after that. And, so I was part of a wonderful school, the Doris Jones Claire Haywood School, and then won a scholarship to New York City. And that put me on the path to wherever I am now.
So, yeah, you mentioned the Jones Haywood School. And then what was the New York scholarship? Was that George Balanchine?
Yeah. That was George. I auditioned for George Balanchine. So another dancer, Louis Johnson, who's passed away, was also chosen from that school, and we were both entered into the American School of Ballet.
So you were the two students, the rare few selected to actually get to go up to New York City and perform.
Yeah, it's pretty fabulous,
Yeah, that's great. And of course, sparking a legendary career. I mean, right after that, you start doing some touring production, some Broadway stuff. But of course, 1957 is when it all really kicks into high gear. When you originated, I can't believe I'm saying this, originated the role of Anita in West Side Story, the musical. I mean, everyone knows that it was a smash on Broadway, but few people know, unless you live here in DC, that it started at National Theater. The world premiere before Broadway was at National Theater in DC.
That's right.
Could you tell that there, as you're doing those early rehearsals, about to do the premiere, could you tell this was like the seed of something that was going to be massive? I mean, you're working with, legends, and you were in the ground floor.
But we knew that we were involved with something that was shocking, but it was a job to us. We just thought of it as a job until we kept running and running and running, and then the newspapers and then we realized surrounding us were problems, and there was Jerome Robbins put on the bulletin board at rehearsals, a gang member had been killed just down the block from our rehearsal. And he put on the board, "This is your life." And suddenly it shocked us into reality. But it was a job before that. It was, work.
Right. And the idea of these gangs, which can be, it's a serious topic, like you just mentioned, but
Yeah.
he had the genius and creativity to make them
Well,
snapping at each other. I mean,
absolutely. Well, it was the creative team that thought of it and put it up, and hired the right people, the Larry Kurtz, the Carol Lawrences, the Mickey Callens. We were very, very, very lucky people because it was originally Romeo and Juliet.
absolutely.
So,
The greatest tragic love story, star-crossed love. Yeah, the Montagues and Capulets became the Sharks and the Jets. You're right.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's no denying that it's really an important piece of theater, and it was originated by the Jerome Robbins, the Stephen Sondheims, the Leonard Bernsteins, and the Arthur Lawrences. So we're glad we got in there first.
We all are. I think that original Broadway soundtrack still the top. You can't beat it. But that real quick, because I do want to ask you about both movie versions, and the new one just came out. But real quick, you mentioned Sondheim. What sort of interactions did you have with him? He's a genius. When you're first performing that song, America, it went on to become such a huge song. But you got to grapple with those lyrics and work with Sondheim right at the very beginning of all that. When when you're reading lines like I don't know, life is all right in America if you're all white in America. I mean, you were way ahead of the curve on a lot of this social change, but just talk about kicking around those lyrics with Sondheim, like in the beginning.
Well, when we as I said before, it was a job, and Stephen Sondheim was not the Stephen Sondheim at the time.
Right.
He was as young as we all were, and so we were working on this piece. We gradually understood, and a lot of people, not a lot, a few people misunderstood that song. She was not saying "you ugly island." She was a joker. She was, just joking around, and there were some people that were sensitive and thought that that she was serious in singing those lyrics, but she was not at all. It was a tongue-in-cheek number. It was brilliantly written, but you had to understand that.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Yeah, the song worked. It's sort of it's that call and response too. It's here's why I'm proud to be an immigrant living in America, and then the fellas in the song, the call and response is but here's all the injustices still. So that's what's the genius of it, of Sondheim. It's that push and pull throughout that whole song. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, and Leonard Bernstein.
Of course, can't forget him. I mean,
yeah,
God, on the waterfront. I mean, come on.
yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I mean, so that's the big stage version, and you bring it from here in DC up to Broadway, and it just dominates. It might have lost the Tony to Music Man, but I mean, either way,
it actually did. But there's proof for you. I mean, Music Man was a wonderful show, but it doesn't compare to a West Side Story.
Oh,
so right. The important thing is that it was done. That's the important thing.
Exactly. And the cultural legacy, as you mentioned, I mean, it has outlived pretty much any show of its era. So, it's a huge hit, your career's, off and running now. When it came time for them to make the movie, I think they replaced most of the cast members with quote unquote movie stars. I mean, I guess George Chakiris had played Riff with you in the West End in London before they
Yeah,
brought him over
he
as
did.
Bernardo. But
Yeah.
were you kind of sad you didn't get to do the movie? Rita Moreno wins the Oscar, but what's it like just seeing Rita take over the role and knowing that you started it?
Oh, it was a movie. I originated it. I breathed the first breath of oxygen into life into that character. And that's life for you. I was doing a show called Bye Bye Birdie with Dick Van Dyke at the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have done it anyhow.
You were a little bit busy.
I was a tiny bit busy. And there's a big difference between a movie and there's a difference between doing it on stage and doing it in film. I prefer the theater. That's just the way I am.
Well, absolutely. But could you at least speak to maybe, how Rita won the Oscar, groundbreaking win for Latinas too, but just thoughts on her performance in the role, and then also the new version, Ariana DeBose.
It exists. It's a reality. The story still is a problem today, and the subject matter, I should say. And so it should still be seen. And I guess more people go to the movies than they do to the theater. So I have not seen the new version at all. And so, I'm not about to pass any judgment on the film. The subject matter is still vital, and I'm glad it was done.
Oh yeah. Well, I assume you do plan on seeing it at some point.
Oh, at some point, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I don't go to movies a lot.
Sure.
But yes, I'm curious about this. Absolutely.
We need to can someone out there listening? We need to hook up Chita Rivera with a screener link here so you can watch it at home or something. Because Anita might win supporting actress for the Oscars this year. She's that good in it, and I think you'd be proud because you started the whole thing. But let's get her a link. Come on, everybody. All right, cool. Well, as you mentioned, you were a little busy at the time because in 1961, when the movie is winning 10 Oscars and Best Picture and all that, you are on Broadway getting your first Tony nomination as Rose, originating that role across Dick Van Dyke in Bye Bye Birdie. Memories of that real fast. I mean, put on a happy face and that, we love you, Conrad, all that stuff. You were once again on the ground floor of that, but memories of that show.
Well, they were amazing memories. If I had to choose between the film and Bye Bye Birdie today, I would still choose Bye Bye Birdie because first of all, it's theater. Second of all, it's original. Third of all, it was Dick Van Dyke and Kay Medford, Paul Lynde. It was an extraordinary cast. Charles Strauss, Lee Adams, and Michael Stewart. These are the creators, and it's gone on to be done in so many schools, so many kids. It's a great piece of theater. So we laughed and we had the best life doing that show.
What was Dick Van Dyke's, magic? I mean, we've loved him over the years, but he's just as charming as it gets.
Well, he won the Kennedy Center honor last year, yeah. And there isn't anybody that can replace him. There's one Dick Van Dyke, and he's the same guy. If you meet him, he's the same guy that you see on television, in films, and on stage. He's the sweetest guy, the most giving guy on stage. He's an amazing artist, and I'm proud to call him a friend.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there are. I mean, West Side Story and Bye Birdie are just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many you've done, and we'd be here all day if we talk about them. I'll try to pluck a couple out here. So on from stage, and actually, I'd like to mention a film real quick. You worked with Bob Fosse in the 1969 film Sweet Charity across Shirley
Right.
MacLaine. What
Right.
was it like? Watching Fosse, mature as a director, moving from stage to screen. After that he'd do Cabaret and all that jazz and be this acclaimed film director too. But what was it like on set with him in Sweet Charity?
Well, it was an honor, really, to to know that he was a dancer. He was what you were at the
Right.
time, and you're proud of him, and you're seeing a technique that's totally his own, and you just want to do it right. You want to do him proud, and it was extraordinary. And on that film, and I Shirley was a classroom friend of mine, and Gwen, who originated the part of Charity, was assisting her husband. And what good environment, what better environment than that? These are great experiences, and and Paula Kelly, she was fabulous in that show, in that movie. And I'm not sure he got great reviews for that, but there you go again. Don't put your money on the reviewers. Just do it. Just do it and enjoy it and learn from it, and go on to the next thing. That's all.
Exactly. Well, one of the next things you mentioned, Gwen, of course, Gwen Verdon. Um, uh, you co-starred with her, and back with Fosse and everything in 1975's the original Chicago again. It's hard. We said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it!" Originating West Side Story, originating Chicago as the first Velma Kelly. Gwen is, of course, the first Roxy Hart. You get your second Tony nomination, and oh my gosh, we can't leave out as Billy Flynn the great Jerry Orbach. Lumiere.
No, no, we cannot.
Man,
Absolutely.
just wow. I mean, that is a series of legends all in one production, but memories of, crafting Chicago with Fosse.
Well, it was extraordinary to be given that kind of direction, and to see it form right in front of your face. Um, well, Gwen was somebody that I really fell in love with, watching on television in all the films. And who would have ever thought that I would stand next to her on a stage at the same level, and share the stage with her? Who would ever have thought it? And it happened. It happened. And what a great advantage it was for me. And she says the same thing. So it was a phenomenal. And his style, there's nothing like his style. There's only one Bob Fosse.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of
Yeah.
that, I mean, how much of a treat was it to get to come on stage? And I mean, you were the first to ever sing and all that jazz. That's just a juicy number.
Yeah, and Freddie and John, Fred Evan, John Cantor. I mean, these are experiences that you never ever want to get rid of. These are ones that you want to have, and I'm honored. I'm absolutely honored with the way my career went.
Oh, for sure. And you won your first Tony with Cantor and Ebon in the Rink in '84.
Right.
What was it like finally getting that win? And I mean, you were co-starring with Liza Minnelli too. That must have been fun.
Oh, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and you're learning all the time. You're picking up on the great things that other actors are throwing at you, and you're learning. So and Freddie and John are, John is still with us. Freddie is passed on, but they were the closest of friends to me. And you can't you can't think less of experiences like that. They are just extraordinary life experiences, because show business is still a part of your life, so it's to meet all these people and to learn from them is extraordinary. It's just fabulous.
Oh, absolutely. Well, maybe time for one more role, because you did win another Tony in the dual role, Aurora and Spider, in Kiss of the Spider Woman in '93. I guess it was originally a play, and then the movie, of course, in the '80s. But talk about how it's a Tony winning role for you, but talk about how that show was sort of. I mean, it was way ahead of its time with LGBTQ stuff. I mean, that's just an iconic show.
Well, just about all of those shows had great storylines, and that's what I love most about the theater, the librettos. And if you've got something great to say, then you will last much longer. And Spider-Woman was extraordinarily important. And I remember saying, "Oh, I can't wait to do this in the South," where they were pretty prejudiced down there about, subject matters. And, and we did it, and we were successful, and we did it all over the country. And, to have Freddie and John and Hal Prince, and Brent Carver and these guys, and this particular story, two men thrown into a cage, into a prison, and they're opposites, and they find out that we are not as different as we think we are. We are all very, very much alike under the same circumstances. So great stories, great stories. When you have something to say, you're a lucky person.
That's true. Something to say, race relations, West Side Story.
That's right.
Strong females in Chicago, revenge against abusive husbands and stuff. And then LGBTQ, because of the Spider-Woman. I mean, you've pushed us forward so much in so many different social arenas. So I just want to say.
Well, I was lucky. Yeah, I was lucky to be there. And I was lucky to be ready. That's what I tell the kids today. Just be ready. You never know what's going to come your way. And you should be ready for it. No matter what it is, you should be ready for it. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Be ready for it. Well,
ready.
Real quick, memories of getting that Tony Lifetime Achievement Award. We've talked about all of how you've moved society and theater forward, but what any memories of that night? Are you able to is it like a sense of validation, or are you not really into awards?
Well, yeah, you just feel lucky. You feel lucky, you feel honored, you feel humbled. So, yes, I have them out in the living room, but it's not the first thing you see when you come in the room, in the house, but it's just a bit of a validation that you've done something in this life, and you've done something right. And if you work hard, then you might get, if you're lucky, you might get repaid for it. And I think that I have been repaid 1,000 times over. So I'm humbled by all.
You really have, and we're lucky for it. And I know, you mentioned Dick Van Dyke's Kennedy Center honor, but you received one in 2002. I believe correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were the first Latina to ever receive the Kennedy Center honor.
Yeah.
How big of an honor is that? Not only, for that, diversity, but also.
Well, you know what? You can't believe it. That's what you can't, you go, okay. Oh, all right. I'll accept whatever you say. If that's true, then I'll take it.
Well, remind us that you went in with a huge class. Do you remind us who was sitting there in the balcony with you? It's unbelievable.
Paul Simon, Elizabeth Taylor, James Earl Jones, myself, and James Levine. And there I am sitting next to them, not believing it, but believing it, having to believe it. So you take it and run before they change their minds.
Absolutely. Well, and I guess one final one too, that you took it and run. You got doesn't get bigger than this at the White House. Barack Obama, 2009 Presidential Medal of Freedom. What's it like standing there, first Black president, putting that medal around?
Yeah, it's you can't believe it. You want to pinch yourself all the time, and when these great people are proved to be human, just simple, but they're not simple. People that you can talk to, that you feel you have something in common with. It's extraordinary. And so those are the pictures you have out in the living room. You know, when I met the two of them, the Obamas, boy, I really thought I that and Pope John the 23rd. When I met the Pope also, it's extremely humbling. It's extremely humbling. And you take it and you say thank you, and you feel better about yourself, until the next day, and then you start from scratch again.
Yeah, well, it doesn't get much bigger than the Pope and the president, so you've done it all. Well, when your life story is written someday, I mean, it's going to include, all these big names, presidents, popes, Fosse. But what do you hope people remember, of you as a person or as a creator? What would you want sort of your legacy to be?
I hope that I have stimulated other people to do the best they can, just to not be afraid, to appreciate themselves, and do the very, very best they can, and be happy with it, and to enjoy their lives, not be afraid all the time, because it's a hard world out there, and you just be happy with who you are and go on from there. That's all.
That is such great advice. Well, we really, really appreciate you joining us. Everyone, check out Chita Rivera hosting the New Year's Eve special on PBS. It's called United in Song, celebrating the resilience of America. Theater and Broadway has had to be very resilient. It's been a tough years.
Well, the world is in a strange place right now, and we have to really be aware of each other, and be aware of learn more about ourselves. So we have to pray things get better soon.
I join you in that prayer. We all do. So
okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for calling, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you very much. Chita Rivera, thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.